Hi, Ashley here with hearthookhome.com, and today we are going to be making a Brugge beanie. It's the newest free crochet pattern on Heart Hook Home, and it is a gorgeous, gorgeous weave that incorporates regular crochet and Tunisian crochet. It's a lot easier than it looks, and we're going to walk through it together today. First, we are going to start with the brim. We're going to make it as wide as it needs to be. If you're making a size other than adult, find the hat sizing chart available on hearthookhome.com. I will link it in the comments here below. We'll start with the brim, make it as wide as it needs to be, then we'll fold it in half and go through both sides so that it's got a nice squishy rounded bottom brim, and then we're going to work our way up as tall as we need it to be, cinch it up at the top, add your palm, and you are good to go. This is such an easy and fun pattern, and it creates that beautiful texture which is just gorgeous. So let's get started. To start, we are going to use Red Heart with Love yarn for this project. It is a worsted weight yarn, which is an Aran size 4 regular weight yarn. For the hook size, we are going to use a J 6mm crochet hook for the brim. When we start the actual hat portion, we are going to switch to a 6mm, same hook size, but a Tunisian hook instead. If you want to use a Tunisian hook that has a cable on the end instead of just the long stick form, that's okay too. As long as it is a 6mm, you'll be fine. To start, we're going to do a foundation row of 21 stitches. So we're going to chain 21 to start. So we've got 21 here. Now we are going to do a single crochet in the second chain from the hook. In the second, I like to go into the back bar, so we're going to go into this one right here. Do a single crochet in each chain until you get to the end. Now at the end of this row you should have 20 stitches, 20 single crochets. Now for every row until we reach the brim width, we're going to chain 1 and turn. We're going to do a single crochet in the very first stitch going through both sides of your loop, okay, both loops. Do a single crochet. Now we're going to go into the back loop only of the next 18 stitches, so that just this back loop, not both. And pull up a loop, do a single crochet in the back loop of all of these to the end. When you get to the end, we're going to do a single crochet in both loops of the last. This is the last stitch here, so we're going to go into both loops of the last one. So every row from here until you finish the brim, you're going to have a regular single crochet in the first, 18 single crochets in the back loop only, and then your last stitch is going to go through both sides for that last single crochet. So now, as the pattern is written, you're going to start a new row and continue in this same exact manner until you have 75 rows. Right, now that I have finished the 75 rows for my brim, I'm going to go ahead and measure the length or the width of my piece from the first or the last row to the first row. I want it to be right around 21 inches. So when I measure, that looks pretty nice. You don't want to stretch it too much because this is a pretty stretchy stitch, so you want it to be right at your 21 inches here. If you are making for someone that's not an adult or someone that has a smaller head or a larger head, you will want to refer to the sizing chart available on Heart Hook Home, which is linked in the comments of this video. To start the actual body of the hat, we're going to make our work to where the loop, the working loop, is at the top right here. Unless you're a lefty, then you want it to be top left. We're going to switch to our Tunisian hook, which is also the 6mm. So we're going to switch to this other hook, and it'll be apparent here in just a moment why we are doing so. We're going to flip this brim in half so that we are crocheting through both sides all the way down. So we're going to line it up. This will create a nice bottom edge here that's not raw, but nice and curved and nice and fluffy. So to start, we are going to pull up a loop in both sides of this fabric, okay? So have your hook, insert your hook into the base of that first stitch there. Now you'll want to look at the back and make sure that you're lining it up correctly to where it's also in the base of that stitch there, so that they are even, okay? Pull up a loop. Now we are going to go where this, instead of in the ridge, we're going to go in between here and insert your hook here in the side of that stitch and make sure that it's coming out on the other side also in the same, so that this, where your hook is coming out of, lines up all the way around, right? So that your ridges line up with the ridges and the non-ridges line up with the non-ridges. So now we're going to go into the next, which is a ridge, right? Put that there. Now we're going to make sure that it comes out of a ridge part here. So this is a ridge and this is a ridge. Pull up a loop. Now we're going to go in between the ridges. So we're going to go into this one right here. Make sure that it lines up to in between the ridges on the other side. Pull up that loop. Honestly, if you get off by one, no one's going to know. This will just make sure that you end up even when you get to the other end. So this one is a ridge, so we're going to pull up a loop here. Here's the ridge on this side. We're going to pull up a loop here. Pull up a loop on the non-ridge. Make sure that you're going into the correct space on the other side. Pull up a loop. So you're pulling up all of these loops. When you get to the end, you're going to have a lot of loops here, right? But we're just going to continue pulling up these loops through both sides of this fabric. And just keep on pulling these up. You want to continue making sure that you fold your brim in half as you work your way down, and just keep on pulling up these loops. This first row really isn't the most exciting, and it's kind of a pain in the butt, I'm not going to lie, but it does get easier the farther up you go on the body of the hat. I'm going to make sure I'm still on track here. I believe I am. Yep, looks good. So it's coming out of a non-ridge here. We're going into a non-ridge here. Perfect. We're going to keep on pulling up these loops all the way to the end of the row, or to the end of the piece. Almost. So the number of loops that you have on your hook at this point will be determined by how many rows you did on your brim. So if you're doing a lot smaller, then you'll have fewer loops on your hook than I do. If you're doing it for a person with a very large head, then you'll have more loops on your hook. And in that case, it might be better to go with the cabled instead of the long stick Tunisian hook. When we get to the end, we're going to go just into the end stitch there on both sides. All right, pull up that loop. This is the tail from when we very first started the brim. Okay, now we have the entire brim on our hook, right? Here's the whole big shebang. It is kind of a hard fit. It does get easier the longer you go. To start your very first row, now we pulled up a loop in every single one of these row ends. Now, to start our backward pass for Tunisian, we're going to yarn over and chain one. Okay, now we're going to yarn over and pull through two. Yarn over, pull through two, yarn over, pull through two, and continue yarning over and pulling through two until you get all the way to the end of this row. yarn over, pull through 2, all the way. I've noticed that it helps if you kind of, instead of having these spaced out too much, if you kind of bunch it up here and hold it tight with your hand, it's easier to just pull them off 2 at a time. So this is all we are doing, is yarning over and pulling through 2 all the way to the end of the row. Okay, the hardest part is now done. Make sure I only got those 2. Alright, so now we've got this 1 loop left on our big long Tunisian hook, right? So here is what your piece should look like. It should still be about 21 inches long, but you've got your first row of Tunisian pulled through, which looks awfully beautiful, doesn't it? Very nice. Let's take a look. So you've got these vertical bars, and then you've got your chains that you pulled through the back side of these, right? We're going to start the first row of the Tunisian honeycomb stitch, which is quite easy. Let's take a look. For the first part of this, the very first loop that you pull up, you're going to insert your hook into that first vertical bar, not the one that you're coming out of, but that very first one, and pull up a loop, right? Now you're going to pull your yarn to the front so that your hook is behind your yarn, and insert your hook into that next bar. Now flip the yarn to the back. I find that it helps if I get it with my thumbnail here and pull up a loop in that one. Okay? That's a Tunisian purl stitch. Now we're going to do a regular Tunisian, so we're going to insert our hook and pull up a loop. Now we're going to pull our yarn to the front, insert our hook in the next loop, rotate it to the back, hold it with your thumbnail, and pull it through. Insert your hook into the next, pull up a loop, bring that yarn to the front, insert your hook, kind of flip it around, hold it with your thumbnail, and pull it through. And we're alternating these Tunisian simple stitch and the Tunisian purl all the way to the end of the row. We're going to pull up all of these loops. Let me reposition here and I'll zoom in so we can get a better idea. So the ones that come straight up like this, those are the Tunisian simple. The ones that have the bar going horizontally across, those are the purls. So you want to make sure that whenever you've got a Tunisian simple like this, that your next one is a purl. And continue pulling up these loops all the way to the end of the row. So here I'm going to end on this one, and now the last one, move my stitches down, the last one we've got here is this one. Right? This is the last vertical bar that we've got. So what we're going to do is we're going to go on both sides. We're going to insert our hook both sides of that stitch. Okay, so this is the V from the side of that. We're going to pull up a loop on the side of that there. So that is our last stitch of the row. Now, in order to make our backward pass, we're going to do exactly what we did the last time when we went back and we did 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, 2. So I'm going to chain 1 first. At the very last one, you always chain 1 first. Now you yarn over, pull through 2. Move your stitches up to make it more comfortable. Yarn over, pull through 2. Yarn over, pull through 2. Pull through 2, all the way to the end of the row. Alright, when we get to the end, I'm going to reset my camera so that I can have some more video time. Just a moment. Isn't it beautiful? Looking really nice. It's normal to have these huge gaps here. We'll fix that at the very end. Let me reset my camera and we'll start on the next row. Alright, so here we are done with our second row of the Tunisian stitch, honeycomb. What we are going to do is we are going to offset. The whole idea of Tunisian honeycomb stitch is that you're offsetting the Tunisian simple with the purl, simple purl, and you're doing it the opposite way every row, right? So On this row, we started with a Tunisian simple stitch. So this next row, we're going to start with the purl. So whatever you started with the last time, you're going to do the complete opposite this time. So to start this next row, I'm going to do a purl, which means that I want my yarn on the front of my hook, insert it into that first vertical bar, pull your hook to the front, and then use your fingernail and pull it through. Now we're going to do a Tunisian simple, so all you're going to do is insert your hook, pull up a loop. Now you're going to do your purl, so go to the back, simple, purl. So you're purling in the simples and simpling in the purls, right? And remember, you can tell the difference because your Tunisian simple, this is a simple, the purls will always have that bar going across the top. So whenever you see the bar, you want to just insert your hook. Whenever you see it coming straight out, that's when you do your purl. So this one, it has that bar, so now we're just going to pull up a loop in that one. Next one, purl. Next one, simple. And just complete this all the way to the end of the row. When you get to the very last one, it doesn't really matter what you end on. It should always be the opposite of what you ended on in the last row since we're offsetting them. But when you get to the very last, you're going to go into both sides of that stitch like we did the last time. So make sure you get both. Okay, let's take a look. So I've hooked both sides of that V from the previous row. So I'm going to pull up my loop there. And now I am ready to start with my backward pass again. So the very first thing we do before we start going through two is we chain one to start. This is to create the side here. Now we're going to do our chain or our yarn over and pull through two all the way to the end. This is my favorite part. It goes really fast. All right, now we are ready to start the next row, right? So it's starting to take this really cute little honeycomb shape, how they have these like little honeycomb looking things, and it's really cute and really pretty. So in order to start the next row, we need to offset what we did the last row, right? So if you're taking a look, if you set it down, for example, and you walk away and you need to remember where you left off, all you're going to do is you're going to look. Is there a bar there, or is it just coming straight out? Is there a bar or coming straight out, right? So if there's a bar, then you want to just pull up a loop. If it's just coming straight out of the one below it, that's when you pull your hook to the back and do your purl stitch. And just alternate like we have been the entire way across. So I am going to continue making my honeycombs all the way across this row, and then on my backward pass I'm going to do yarn over, pull through two, yarn over, pull through two, all the way. When I get a total of 25 rows, we are going to hook back up and measure the height of our hat. If we need to add some, that's okay. So you continue making your honeycombs, and we will hook back up when we get as tall as the hat needs to be. Okay, so there's the end of the 25th row. When you measure this, you're going to measure including the brim all the way from the bottom of the brim to the top. So let's see if this is around 11. It should be. Perfect, right at 11 inches, which is just about perfect. So if you remember, if you want it a little bit slouchier, add another couple of rows until you get to 11 and a half or 12 inches. If you want it to be a little bit less slouchy, then go a little bit shorter. To fasten off of this stitch, Tunisian, and get situated, all you're going to do is slip stitch across. So you're going to insert your hook into the very first bar and slip stitch. Next bar and slip stitch. All the way across the row. When we get to the end, we're going to go into the side, just like we have been the whole time. We're going to go into that side and just slip stitch right on through. Now we are done with our piece. What we're going to do is we're going to want to cut our yarn, leaving a decent enough tail to where we can sew it up. I'm not going to measure it, but I usually do, I don't know, 14 inches or so. It's probably good. Now we are going to pull this, fasten off, just pull it straight on through. Now we're going to flip it over to where we're looking at the ugly side, which honestly really isn't that ugly. I think it's kind of cute. You're going to take your sides of your hat here, I can get this out of the way, and fold them in on each other. Now we are going to take our yarn needle and we're just going to sew it up all the way down. Let's hide this. We'll weave that in here in a minute. We're going to use the mattress stitch to sew this together. It's exactly how I sew most of my other crocheted pieces together. We're just going to grab it like we're tying a shoelace and go back and forth. And back and forth. When we get to the end here, we're going to line it up as we have been, and we're going to sew through the top part of the brim before we sew through the bottom part. So we're not just going to go through both sides of both brims, we're just going to do the front or the top, and then we're going to come around the back side and do the bottom as well. I think that it just looks a lot cleaner, and it leaves less of a ridge there. I'm going in the inside loops only, corresponding back and forth so that I keep it as uniform as possible. Now that we've made it all the way, I'm going to snag a couple different pieces here, go through, and now I'm just going to weave in my ends like I would normally. Clip both of these pieces of yarn. Now for the very last part to finish up our beanie. Isn't it looking lovely? I love it. Absolutely gorgeous. What we're going to do to finish up is we're going to clip another piece of yarn, oh, I don't know, 12 inches or so, maybe 20 inches. Let's go 20. We'll just throw a number out there. Long enough so that you can wrap it all the way around the hat and then cinch it shut. Bars here. So I'm going to come in from the back side, leave a little bit of a tail so that we don't lose it, right? And I'm going to feed my yarn through underneath all of these vertical bars. All the way around the entire outside of the hat. When we get back to where we were, to where we started, we're going to feed that yarn into the inside. So we're almost there. All right, looks good. Now we're going to feed that yarn just through the back side there to where we're looking at it on the inside. Now I'm going to flip the hat inside out. Find my two little ends here, and I'm going to pull them nice and tight. I'm going to tie a knot here to make it nice and cinched down, like that. And we're going to tie it again to keep it from going anywhere. Before I do that second one, I'm going to make sure that the first one is still tight, because I don't want any holes in the top of the hat. I will say that be careful not to pull too tight on this yarn, or any yarn, because you can break it just by pulling. I mean, if you're super strong like me. Just kidding. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we're going to take our remaining ends of yarn. We're just going to go around this opening here, and we're just going to make sure that there's not any big holes. Like, this is as small as I can get it when I'm just tying it together. So I'm going to go in and remove my finger, but I'm just going to go in and kind of pull this just a little bit tighter, just by regular old weaving in ends. Here we are. And now we have a finished Brugge beanie slouchy hat. Isn't that fabulous? I just absolutely love it. I hope you love it too.